We have some amazing shrimpers here gathered to share their stories. So what I'm going to do is just pass the mic around. We're going to get into a lot of stuff today, but right now we just want to hear your story, who you are, your cultural heritage, where you are, and what you do.
Okay, my name's Travis Dardar. I'm a commercial fisherman, shrimper. I catch oysters and crabs. Originally from Ile de Jean Charles, South Oklahoma, about 60 miles south of Oklahoma, I guess. I'm actually one of the fishermen that's worked the entire coast throughout my lifetime, from one end to the other, settling in Cameron. People will get up here today and give you different things that are killing the industry, and that's to be blamed on more than one thing, right? Obviously, the low prices of shrimp, that's killing us. Imports, that's killing us, of course. Wildlife and fisheries going up on the prices of the licenses when everything else is going down. Yeah, that's another problem. Over there to the southwest in Cameron, where I've been, our biggest problem is liquefied natural gas plants. They came in, they built on top of where we fish. I mean, you're talking feet, not miles. We went to the wildlife and fisheries. We got trip tickets over the last 10 years and seen exactly what kind of effect that it had on the fishermen. So I went from there and opened up my own little organization, and I built a coalition of fishermen. As of right now, I have practically every fisherman in Cameron, over 100, with me, and we're fighting them. And for my efforts, first my boat was sunk 6 months ago. Beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, don't leak. I took hurricanes after that, and the boat's fine, since I put the cameras. 3 weeks ago, my house caught on fire while I was down the bayou helping the fishermen from over there clean up after the storm. And, fish has come a long ways. We give direct mutual aid to the shrimpers. Last year, we paid for 150 licenses. So we're very proud of that. We've put boats on dry dock, so we're here to help the fishermen and plan to continue doing it no matter what they do to me.
In my efforts to get all this technology going, I failed to make one important point, which is the central point of this. We all come here for this shrimp. And Lance and I were just talking, 20 years ago, you're getting about $5 a pound for medium shrimp. Anybody want to take a guess at what the dockside prices are right now? What do you say? $1.05. And the majority of the shrimp eaten in this country now come from foreign farm-raised shrimp. So our shrimp race, not because we don't have shrimp, is being crashed by this. So our main message here is to ask where your seafood comes from and demand that you eat Gulf shrimp. Okay? We're going to get into a lot of issues today, but that's the key issue we're talking about. Okay, Kindra Arnesen, our next shrimper, please introduce yourself and share your story.
Good afternoon. My name is Captain Kindra Arnesen. My husband and I are involved in both state and federal fisheries. We fish a paragraph of different species depending upon what season it is, what time of the year. Throughout the year, we have a reef fish boat that goes offshore, and then a skiff that stays inshore to shrimp the bays and estuaries. And then we have a net boat that we catch mullet and sometimes pompano. So that's kind of the overview of what we do for a living. I've been involved in fishery advocacy now for going on 15 years. I sit on Plaquemines Parish Coastal Zone Management Advisory Committee representing our commercial fishermen, and I'm the vice president of a newly formed organization as well. It's called the Women's Southern Fisheries Alliance, and I'm a supporter of Coastal Community Counseling and Louisiana Shrimp Association. The reason I'm involved in all of this is because originally I got involved in advocacy work over potentially caging our oceans to grow our protein that was something very foreign to me. And when I started to learn about it, I started to really dig into it. And I saw the picture, the writing was on the wall that there was a huge interest from the corporate perspective to come in and gain access to our water bottom and start fish farming here in the United States. And I don't know if you guys know much about fish farming, but I'm 100% against caging our domestic waters when our fishermen, our generational fishermen, can provide access to a healthy, viable food source right here out of domestic waters in the United States. And anybody, there's a big push and a big narrative out there to tell the public that commercial fishing is not sustainable. When in fact, the reason that we're called generational fishers is because we have been sustainable. We've sustained ourselves generation after generation after generation. But not only have we sustained ourselves, for us, this is a way of life. This is what we do. This is what we know, and we enjoy doing it. But there's a bigger, more important aspect of what we do that I really want to drive this message home today while I have the opportunity. What we do is we access your food source. We strengthen our country's food security as a nation. And I think that we all should really take a step back when we're thinking about caging our oceans and consider the fact of what does that look like? Does that look like a bunch of corporate interests coming in with a bunch of investors and investing money, and when their profit margin isn't met, their desired profit margin, they bail? They're not resilient like your commercial fishers are that are fishing these waters and providing you access to this healthy protein. So over the last 15 years, I've dug in and I've learned a lot, and I found myself visiting D.C. twice a year to tour the Hill and talk to legislators there. I find myself in Baton Rouge a lot, talking to legislators there. And I find myself talking to just about anybody who will listen to bring some type of perspective to the public, but to shine the light on the plight of our fishers in our coastal communities, and to try to affect change. And that's through changing legislation, writing new legislation, and being part of the process of fisheries management, because I can tell you that and as Travis was saying, there's so many reasons that the fishery has fallen apart the way that it has in this country. But one of your number one reasons is called reduction of the capacity of the American fishing fleet. We have been systematically regulated to the point of collapse. We have been systematically set up by importers, big business across this entire country. While they're importing seafood, they're building an aquaculture company. While they're building an aquaculture company, they're bankrolling certain organizations to come after us to impose further regulations to shut us down. So it's a multitude of issues that we deal with from a fishery perspective. And I'm just excited to be here to share that with you guys. And I know that there's not enough time to get it all in on stage, so I'll be available for questions afterwards. But to my other fishermen, for as long as you can, man, fish on.
A lot of what Kindra's talking about, I want to bring it back to you, because what's happening in our fishery right now is exactly what happened to our farms in the 70s and 80s. It's called the commodification of food. When food becomes commodity, it no longer becomes food. I showed you the picture before of this used to be millions, up to 70 million bison. Eating animal flesh was healthy, it prevented disease. Then we took that, a similar animal, to a bison, and we domesticated it and put it on confinement, as she's talking about with confining our fisheries. And all of a sudden, animal meat is now the cause of disease. This is what happens when you commodify food. And that's what's happening in our oceans right now. So when she's talking about caging our ocean, she's talking about farm seafood that introduces diseases both in the fishery and in us, because we eat what is farmed. And we have a really convoluted idea of what a farm is. This land was built on small farmers and people living with the nature, not one mass producer, grocery stores, everything packaged. So just want to try to interpret what these are fishing for you, because if we start having farm seafood here, not only do we not have these people as part of our culture, you're now eating something that will cause disease with you, and it collapses the economy. And with that, I turn it over to Lance Nacio.
My name is Lance Nacio. I'm owner of Anna Marie Seafood. I've been a full-time fisherman since 1997. Just a little bit of history. I grew up in a trapping camp, and we were disconnected from society growing up, and my family lived off of the natural resources. So growing up, I was exposed to all these different things that you're able to make a living from. And, I'm very passionate about what I do. And in order to continue to be a fisherman, I kind of branched out and did things a little different. Incorporated a lot of technology in our operation. We started doing farmers markets about 20 years ago, and it's a big part of our business. We do 3 farmers markets a week. My van is at a farmers market. Actually, it's coming here now, so we're going to have it set up out front with our products. But we do small-scale processing. We do hand-peeled shrimp. We do cut fish and stuff like that. So, we offer a lot of different things. And I've been, very vocal and passionate about trying to save this industry. I sit on the Shrimp Task Force, and a couple of weeks ago, we just voted to fund some testing. And, the testing is very crucial to ensure the future of this industry, because fishermen are just being used to sell these imported products. A couple of months ago, I was invited to a meeting with the Federal Trade Commission. So there's a lot of different approaches that are being handled, and Federal Trade Commission sent out letters about 2 weeks ago to 10 top corporations that are selling imported products and using the imagery of domestic fishermen and fishing boats to sell. They sent out letters to places like Popeyes, Bubba Gump Shrimp, Long John Silver, Red Lobster, places like that use the imagery of fishermen but only sell imported shrimp. So, a lot of this stuff that's going on today gives me hope, because we've tried a lot of different fights, and it seems like, it gets talked about for a little while, but then it goes away. But I think this fight is going to save the industry, and I think if we can get the public educated on what's going on out there, it's globalization. They're bringing in more shrimp than we consume in the United States, and the fishermen are being pushed out. But we're only being used to sell this other stuff.
George Barishich.
Good afternoon. First off, I want to thank y'all very much for coming, for everybody's coming here, because without y'all helping me make the splash, nobody's going to see my ripple. They really don't care about us. Back in the 80s, when we made good money, all right, there was almost 30,000 of us. Now we're down about 3,800, and 3,800, we don't know how many of them are really full-time commercial fishermen. But I'm 68 years old. I catch wild-caught harvest shrimp in St. Bernard, and I also have oyster farms. I've been on the Shrimp Task Force for over 32 years, up until 2 years ago when I fought the governor because they wanted to quadruple our license fees. I got kicked off the Shrimp Task Force because I caught them in lies. So that's how some of the stuff that we have to deal with politically and apolitically. I've been designing T-shirts. I got them all across here for the past 20 years of fighting what's going on. This one here says white boots matter. It makes a difference. When the economy in southeast Louisiana does not get started until that gentleman with the white boots turns that key. If not, it just sits right there. It stagnates. When they tell us they're going to subsidize us, I say, I don't want a subsidy. You give me a subsidy, I stop fishing. My boat stops. That $200,000 a year that I spend to run that boat, that goes away. Them 2 guys that work for me, that goes away. How is that beneficial? It's not. So we need the public to understand what's going on. You're getting fed garbage. You're getting fed stuff that's not necessarily good for you at the expense of the fishermen who made this state. 2 years ago, as it works out, our country consumes 1.6 billion pounds of shrimp meat. All right? 2 years ago, the people that run this country, let's put it that way, allowed 2.2 billion to come in before our season even opened. They didn't even need us to go. You want to know why? They don't care. And this is the only thing that's really been bipartisan for the last 40 years. It didn't matter if you was Republican or Democrat. The domestic shrimp industry got abandoned. And I don't know why, because economically it's terrible, Biologically it's terrible because you're going to eat garbage, right? To give you an idea of what we've been going through, I got the economists, I sat on the task force, I got the economists, but give me some bullet points so I can tell the general public what this means to us. He says, Captain George, I did the research. If shrimp would have gone up at the same rate of oil and milk since 1986, we would be getting $9 a pound at the dock. All right? Last year, for big shrimp, last year I got $1.05. 4 weeks ago when my shrimp season opened, I had 7,000 pound of 50/60s, which is a small shrimp. I had $4,200 with 7,000 pounds. In the 80s, that would have been $14,000 with 38 cents a gallon fuel. It's $4,200 with $3 a gallon fuel. So in 7,000 pounds of shrimp, I cleared $1,400. It just don't work. Your math don't work, We go to D.C. every year. Kendra and I, sometimes we up there at the same time, beating the same people down. Well, we can't do this, we can't do that. Why not? This is America. Do something for Americans. This is American seafood, American workers, American public. Come on, step up. And like Lance said, finally we're getting some legislation being passed. We're getting attention thanks to these people here and these people here. We're getting some attention. Who knows? But when you go out to eat, the last thing I'm going to ask you to do, when you go out to eat, don't eat something else, order shrimp. But right before they bring it to you, ask them if it's domestic or foreign. If it's not domestic, tell them take it back and give me a hamburger. Thank y'all very much.
Sandy Wynn.
Hi, how you guys doing? Thank you for inviting me and thank you for coming. My name is Sandy Wynn. I am born to a fisherman, married to one, and have intimate relationships with thousands of fisher families across the coast, as I have probably the only nonprofit organization that does direct assistance to our fisher and our fisher folks. Where would I start? My parents came here, immigrated here when I was only 6. Going to school, taking English class, and doing the Medicaid food stamp thing was not an option, since this was very difficult and not economical when they're always gouged everywhere they go. So Daddy went on the boat, Mom shuckled oyster, I found out later on in Hopedale, 2 shifts a day, and raised 5 kids. All of us pretty much went to school. But as I'm speaking to you right now, I just want you guys to think about it. My parents came from Vietnam at sea, almost died at sea. No English, a foreign country, raised 5 kids. And I can't do it, well educated, with 2 today. And so, prices, I've known as the lady that said this, and it's true. Prices are inhumane today. I have an office that serves over 2,000 clients. We are going through a death a month with numerous heart attacks, strokes, domestic violence, business closures. All of this is going on immediately in Buras, in Houma, in areas where the fishermen work out of. And it's been trickling up to town. So where I'm at right now is that we, the United States, are considered one of the probably the most humane country in the world. Shrimp is known and researched to be the most desired seafood in the state. Guys, we only are able to produce 25% of what the country demands are. So will it hurt these big corporations? I can say it, Walmart, Costco. Would it hurt you? When you're buying our shrimp, you're still making $3, $4 profit. You're just not making the $9, $10 profit that you're getting from the imports. But we can only provide 25% of the country's demand for shrimp. So would it hurt you to continue to buy and keep and save our way of life? My Jesus God, this has seriously been deadly amongst the community. I kid you not. It breaks my heart to see generational fishermen red-eye having to choose between bread or eggs, and I go across the country. I just came back from Alaska, been to Maine. I talk about this, but people brushes me off. It's the point. The point here is our general public, our locals here, doesn't even understand where the shrimps are coming. What is behind these shrimps? And right now, it is deadly. It is deadly. And so I appreciate you all coming out. I appreciate more events like this. It has to start in Louisiana. And we have to, I'm talking to you right now, and there are billions of dollars, of our tax dollars, going outside the country, saving families from wars and tornadoes and tsunamis. Yet no one understands or are aware of what is going on with our fisher family across the coast. Come on. $15 tax here and there, right? But no one is aware of what's going on with the families and how deadly it's been for us. And so I just moving forward, I am where I'm at. Nobody taught me anything about commercial fishing and Louisiana coast. All of my training, all of what's in this head of mine came from my fishermen. So as we move forward, my goal is to get the word out there, get visibility, and work with any or all stakeholders that are willing to work with us. Because I learned everything in this head of mine from the very people that I serve today, and those are the commercial fishermen. They taught me everything about land, water, lifestyle, and culture. And there's no business why an entire generation way of life has been swiped away from us at no fault of our own. We just want to work. Thank you.
Part of this festival is aimed to empower you. Every time you eat, you cast a vote, you make a decision. You produce what you eat. Your dollar, your fork has power. What are you going to choose? Are you going to choose delicious, nutritious food or disease food that causes disease in you? Doesn't matter what the animal is. When you raise it in confinement, the animal becomes ill. And typically our solution is to give it antibiotics. Oh my gosh, we have antibiotic resistant diseases that are rampant throughout us, okay? George was talking about you're being fed diseased seafood. Well, when you put shellfish in confinement in tight quarters, they get diseased. You then put antibiotics in that, they become resistant to those antibiotics. And they're talking about the tonnage of shrimp that's coming in right now. Less than 1% of that shrimp is being inspected. And somebody please correct me, of that 1%, 30, I've heard up to 50% gets rejected by the inspector. So when you're not eating the delicious shrimp that these people produce, you're putting your life at risk. I love how these start going because we got Travis from Ile de Jean, St. Charles, and Sandy from Vietnam, because my next slides are here's what's happened to our coast. That's Ile de Jean, St. Charles. Sorry. Let me go back up to it. Again, that was once 300-foot cypress trees and 50-foot cane, a vibrant wetland. We're talking about all this foreign shrimp as if these foreign areas are our enemy. That's Cao Mau, Vietnam. I went to the Mekong Delta a few years ago. Through some people in New Orleans East that I was working with, they're like, Gary, everything we're talking about here is happening there. The same type of coastal degradation. This used to be vital wetlands. It looks like all of the oil patches, those are actually aquaculture. So mangroves have been clear cut to do these aquaculture ponds. As I hit it to try to get them to go to the next one. And this is the up close view. This is what I took out the side of the van. This is what the Vietnamese coast looks like now. It looks like the Louisiana coast does. It is a wasteland. So it's not only destroying our wetland, our culture, our people. What would you think? You were once living in a vital, tidal mangrove, and now this is what you live in? That's eroding and even tied even closer to us. There was an amusement park. It just blew my mind that in a dying swamp, in a dying wetland, there was an amusement park just like we've got out in New Orleans East. And look at people out here. They're actually up to their thighs trying to replant the wetland. Yeah. So I don't want to, in Ecuador, they have lost 70% of their coastal mangroves. This is happening around the world. Don't be blaming people in Vietnam. Don't be blaming people in Ecuador. It's the same multinational companies that are screwing people at both ends. And you guys are they're losing their livelihood. You may be losing your life by eating this stuff. And I'm not playing, as somebody with a PhD in nutrition, been doing this for 40 years, I'm not playing with you. Also, the most important thing is this stuff is delicious. Do you really want to eat anything grown in those conditions? And this is actually what these multinational corporations want to do with our coastal waters. So when people say, oh, we must be able to farm to produce more food, that's a game. I'm 64 years old. I was born in 1960. The world's population was 3 billion in 1960. We're pushing 8 billion a day, and it's all due to the commoditization of calories, not food. We produce way more food than we need. And we destroy our food systems that actually sustain us. So I'm going to start on this end now, Sandy, with what has happened to your business with the imports coming in.
Gary, I was going to want to talk after you anyway. You really can't blame the Vietnam, the Ecuador. I mean, they're all poor countries. I don't think they want to bring their 6-year-old child out and feed shrimp daily instead of going to school. However, if our government continues to allow it to freely flow in here for them to make a living and raise their family and live, then why not? So I'm from Vietnam. I had no idea anything. Sorry, I'm American, sorry, but I'm from Vietnam. But when you think about these countries, they're all poor countries. They will do whatever they can to survive. And if it means importing and putting their childs at risk to do the labor and all that good stuff, they will continue to do it as long as the United States government allows them to freely do so. I mean, don't tell me Congress doesn't know about this. I've seen videos of our task force, our big people, I call them up here, and, our state legislature. Since Katrina, they've been there up to Congress crying about this issue for decades. And yet, they allow it to suppress the price to where we cannot make a living. There's not a time in history where shrimp stays at 80 cents per pound dockside. These are our 1620 for an entire season. There's no time in history that we've been disrupted, non-existent, no profit of more than 1 year, much less 2, 3. We're going on our 4th year with no profit. So there's not much more, much straightforward I could talk about the issue. Guys, it's not a get-rich business. But if you do it right, it's a comfortable way of life. And for generations and generations of our Americans, our immigrants who came here specifically for the fisheries and the climate, it's so unfair. And I can be honest with you, I came here when I was 6. From Carter to Reagan to Bush to Clinton to Bush to Obama. I don't, like George mentioned, it's not even about politics with us. Quite frankly, nobody gives a damn about rural coastal Louisiana or anywhere, as a matter of fact, in this country.
Okay, to direct your question, what has it done to me economically? Over the since the 80s, we had 2 shrimp boats. I had one, my brother had one, we did a little business together. He got out the business. I'm down to 1 shrimp boat now, and it's part-time. Last year, we were actually told not to go out. We can't buy them. Or they put you on a 5,000-pound quota. 5,000 pound at $1 a pound if you got the big ones with $2,200 worth of fuel, it just don't work. You can't make enough money. If you're going to get a low price, you got to be able to catch as many pounds as you can throw on that boat and be able to sell it. So there's a multiple reasons why we can't make it like this. And what's really disappointing is that, as Sandy just said, we've been going up there for decades, not years. And look, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. 2 years ago, I said, all right, guys, the shitstorm's here. What are y'all going to do? You know, so we do have some legislation that got passed, but it's going to be piecemeal. It's going to help a little bit, but it's like giving somebody with a brain tumor an aspirin. It ain't going to work. It ain't going to help, you know. What can we do? Lance has developed his own business. I take overnight shrimp charters. I sell direct. I've been selling direct for way before Katrina, you know, because I saw it coming, you know. I'm a little different, unique. I went to college. I went to law school. And while I was in law school, I said, I don't think I can do this for a living. I'm going to go back and do what I love. And there's a lyric in one of them country songs. It says, find what you love to do and call it work. So that's what we do. It's a way of life. It's not just to make that paycheck, you know. But you need that paycheck to be able to go back and forth. And economically, the worst part about it is that $150,000 boat that I do own right now, as I'm going to be forced to retire soon one of these days, it should be worth $150,000, and I could sell it to somebody, have a little retirement bank. I can't give it away right now. Because if I can't make it by owning it, how is somebody going to buy it from me, get a loan, and pay on it? It's not going to happen. So it not only upsets what's going on right now, it upsets the future economically. So that's why we're up here, and we're fighting to try to keep it going. Thank y'all for coming.
So when he was talking about disease with foreign shrimp, that's the only times in my history that we've gotten a fair price is when they had a white spot disease or some kind of problem with aquaculture. Then our prices, you know, get to an affordable price. I mean, you know, we've got $4.50, $5 a pound for our shrimp, and it was because relation to disease. And as far as legislation, we passed this restaurant labeling law about 5 years ago. And when the law was passed, since the law was passed, they handed out 2,600 citations, but not a one penalty. So what good is a law if you can't enforce it? And there's new legislation coming out with a lot stiffer penalties, but there's a few loopholes in the law. And I'm going to put it on the next Shrimp Task Force agenda so we can try to vet out these loopholes. One of the loopholes is they're still going to allow processors to pack shrimp in boxes that have Louisiana imagery and stuff like that on it, as long as they put the country of origin on the box. So they're still going to use fishermen to sell imported products. You know, like this stuff it needs to be addressed. I mean, if you're going to use a Louisiana imagery or an imagery of a fishing boat or something, you need to be using that product. And you know, I mean, it's like an uphill battle, you know, trying to get this stuff right. Because no matter what you think you have, they still figure out ways to manipulate the laws. And, you know, I mean, I'm hopeful that, you know, this testing is going to get things right, but it's going to have to be constant. It's not going to be something that you do for a few years and, you know, become complacent. One of the things that David is trying to do is get these pieces of equipment put in universities and different places where the consumer can bring a sample in and have it tested. Yesterday, I just participated in the Rougarou Fest in Houma, and the guy who puts the festival on, he's buying one of the machines, and another organization is buying one, and there's going to be 2 machines in Houma where the consumer can have the ability to go have their product tested. So I think it's going to be a movement that we're going to have to do, and we're going to have to stay on it to keep them truthful.
So the market has affected our business as negatively as it's affected the entire commercial fishing fleet here in Louisiana and across the country. Is there's more than just Louisiana that produces shrimp. basically made the entire fleet, my boat included, where I would say, if I had to guess, more than 95% of us are what we refer to as a breakdown away from shutdown. Because, you know, like Mr. George was talking about, after catching 4,000 plus pounds of shrimp, he's got $1,400, but does he? Did he pay his slip rent? Did he buy fiberglass for the deck? Did he get the fuel filters and the oil filters that's $40-50 a pop? You know, so really he didn't make $1,400. He might have made $300-400. Can he pay his light bill with that? Can he include his water bill, or he's going to put that on the back burner? You know, and I seen this, what I'm talking about is a domino effect in our personal and our professional lives. If we're not good in our professional lives, we're not going to be good in our personal lives. And I mean, some of us, most of us, probably all of us at some point have had to take money that we might have had to repair our boat and go pay our light bill at the house with it. And that may be a 2 or 3 month light bill. I mean, Sandy talks about inhumane prices. It's definitely inhumane when a business owner can't pay his personal bills at his house and keep his business afloat. That's pretty inhumane. And I mean, it beats the crap out of you. You know, you want to get up and you want to go out. There's no feeling in the world for me personally like headed down a pass. Sun's coming up in my face, the wind's in my hair. Well, it's always braided when I go on a boat, but you know, I mean, there's no better feeling in the world. You're optimistic, you're full of life, had a good night's sleep, you're ready to go out and slay them and bring the tonnage home to feed your country, because that's what we do. So personally, it's affected us big time. You know, I mean, my boats are in real bad shape at this point, and you know, I keep thinking we can go a little bit further, and most of us do, but it puts our very lives at risk too. I mean, this commercial fishing is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. We lose fellas and ladies every single year to the water's edge, you know, and when our boats aren't in tip-top shape, that puts our lives at risk. And look, it might be as simple as not being able to replace a spool of rope, a spool of spectrum, to pick our frames up and down, to pick our bullets up and down. Something snaps and a rope comes across the deck and slices somebody open, or breaks a bone, or kills somebody, knocks them overboard because they by themselves on the boat because they can't afford a deckhand anymore. A lot of our captains are going by themselves. That puts that's our family. You know, when one of us falls and then the whole fleet's out there looking for him because somebody fell overboard and there was nobody to stop the boat. You know, I mean, it affects us in a way that I don't think a lot of people really fully comprehend. And I'm not trying to over-dramatize the situation. I'm just trying to snatch the Band-Aid off the gaping wound here. We in a bond. You know, legislatively, I mean, we're trying to pass legislation. But for a long time, a lot of people was going in there thinking that, and myself included in this number, oh, well, the legislators are there to protect us as American citizens, to do their job. We're not attorneys. We don't know how to write law. This is writing law. We're walking into the legislative body with a bunch of seasoned attorneys. Over half of your legislative body in any section of politics is usually a bunch of lawyers. You think they pulled out their pen and put it to paper and tried to help write legislation for the betterment of this industry? You know, look, I just want the commercial fishing industry to be treated as well as the oil and gas industry. They provide access to oil and gas. We provide access to food. I want our legislators to treat us just as well. You know, and universities to treat us just as well. Stop trying to paint us as rapists and murderers of the oceans and sea. That's not what we are. You know, I talk about these big corporations, and they got the import company and they got the aquaculture company, and they bankrolling these organizations to further impose more regulation to put us off the water. That's the ones painting us, and they've done it for generations. They painted us as rapists and murderers of the oceans and sea. Our commercial fishermen was well capable of feeding our nation. You know, I'm part of a coalition of fishermen that covers every inch of coastline in this country. Lance is right there with me with this coalition, with the exception of the Great Lakes and Hawaii. We run under North American Marine Alliance off the East Coast, and we come together every year and we share stories, and I hear my other captains at the table, And they're talking about, oh yeah, man, we used to have like 1,700 boats. Now we got 16. Who's going to feed you? Who's going to feed your children and your grandchildren and your neighbors and your country? We're all Americans. You know, at the end of the day, we'll have a storm come through, and we'll see somebody brings over a boiling pot, somebody brings some seasoning, somebody's got a tank of gas, boiler, we hook that up. Our fisherman comes over there, they throw some shrimp in a pot, somebody got a bag of potatoes, you know, and the whole group of us come together and we feed each other. We need to see an all hands on deck for the commercial fishing industry in this country the same way we see an all hands on deck after a Category 5 runs over the tip of Florida or the tip of Louisiana. And everybody, that's what we need to see. And our legislators look at, to some degree, their hands are tied to some degree. The World Trade Organization is the rules of play. That's what we fall under in this country. It don't matter what you produce. Because of our trade agreements this country has on a global scale, we have to fall under those rules of play. What is protectionism? It's illegal under the World Trade Organization's rules of play. So, to some level, our government needs to go back and renegotiate our trade agreements and renegotiate the rules of play under the World Trade Organization's rules of play. Stand up for Americans and stand up for Americans' food security and rewrite those laws. Rewrite those rules of play. Because at what point do we stop the flood of the imports? It's not just shrimp. Shrimp's not the only thing that's killing American businesses. There's other imports too. And you know, we talk about at the state level, and we talk about the grocery stores, and we talk about the packers, but there's a bigger thing going on here, and it is globalization of the food system. It's every commodity. It doesn't matter what it is, but those rules have got to be changed. And I'm here to tell you, as Americans, wake up. You better wake up, because at some point, say for the port strike, for instance, if we have no food being produced in this country, or I say no food, not enough food to sustain all of us, we have anarchy. If the port's shut down, if something breaks out and we don't have access to protein out of our own country. So it doesn't just affect me as a commercial fisher. It affects you. It affects everybody. You know, and it's not just on water, it's on land too. I went to Farm Aid last year and I was like blown away, because when I heard the corporate names, JBS Packing, Cargill, Cisco, Red Lobster, look up SAT, Stronger America Through Seafood, they're voting members, JBS, Cargill, Cisco, Red Lobster. Their sole mission is aquaculture. That's why they're called Stronger America Through Seafood, because we can no longer feed our nation. They literally are using our plight as their narrative to push forward to cage your oceans, feed you confined seafood they got to turn around and put antibiotics on to stabilize it to get it to your table. You know, we talk about Vietnam, we talk about Ecuador, and then we talk about the federal government not testing seafood. But what we haven't mentioned is by the mid-2030s, the number one killer on this planet will be antibiotic resistance. The number one killer as a whole. That'll be the number one thing, not street violence, not drug overdoses. I mean, those are some other problems, but that'll be the number one killer. So do we want that in our waters? Do we want them to have to stabilize seafood in our water with antibiotics? You know, we talk about all the shrimp being flooded into the United States. You know why the same amount of shrimp is not going into Europe? Because there's so many banned antibiotics in the United States and Europe, but they don't let them come into Europe, so they dumping them here. They're dumping bad food in your ports. That's what's happening. So that's what's killing our businesses. But I could go on all day. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a mic hog, but that's where I'm at.
How it's affecting us in Cameron. Well, let's see. You know, it's a damn shame, excuse my French, when you come back to the dock and after you get your fuel back and your ice and your salt, you owe the damn dock $200? I mean, come on now. I mean, to say they sold us out would be an understatement. You know, and to say they screwed us would imply that we wanted it, and we didn't, believe you me. The difference, again, it's a little different situation down there where I'm from, is the quantity, right? To the southeast, y'all at least had quantity. Now, to the southwest, what we catching now, what one boat catches right now, it's more than the whole fleet, you know. All the boats together don't catch that much. And it's a damn shame also. Look, we leave and they go drive all the way to Dulac. I know 30 cents ain't much, but you got them boys in Cameron, because they're not catching the quantity anymore, driving all the way to Dulac to sell their shrimp because it's 50 cents down here and it's 80 cents over here. You know, that might not seem like a whole lot, but, I mean, when you're down to the nitty-gritty, buddy, it adds up, right? And everything everybody said up here is, you know, spot on. But, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
You know, in listening to all this, my mind's kind of been all over the place. I mean, Kindra, we were having all these calls that we wanted to try to bring as positive as a message to this as possible. And it's not that we're trying to scare people, but also wake up. But at the same time, there's a lot of power in this room. And I'm reminded by a saying of the Dalai Lama, if you don't think one entity can make a difference, try going camping and spending the night in a tent with a mosquito. The power each one of you have to buy shrimp from any one of these, the impact it will have on their lives and on your life, because you'll be eating delicious, nutritious. And I keep saying that. If it's not delicious, it's not nutritious. What do we say when we eat around here when you go out to eat? Hey, how was your dinner? It wasn't bad. We do not have good food in this country. It doesn't exist. We have been gamed by the commodity brokers. I come from Iowa farming stock. My mother was raised on a farm in the Depression in Iowa, and Iowa is considered the breadbasket. Kindra, you've been talking about food security? If a natural disaster were to hit Iowa right now, anybody want to take a guess what their food supply is? 3 days. Because all of their food, it's not food, it's commodity corn, soy, and wheat that ship somewhere else. Iowa doesn't have food. That's what we're talking about here. Imagine Louisiana without seafood. Even though you can drive through and get you a daiquiri and a po' boy, it ain't going to be Louisiana. And all that is doing, that's going to go to you're talking about antibiotic-resistant diseases. I'll challenge you with that because obesity, because before the commoditization of food in the 90s, the obesity rate in this country was about 10 to 11%. Now it's over 40%. The overweight rate was about 25 to 30%. Now it's 80%. People are now going across the border to get insulin because they can't afford health care here. And it's all due to our food. So again, you guys all have the ability to help save this industry. Every time you go out to eat, your local po' boy stand, where do you source your shrimp? Is it Gulf? Is it Louisiana shrimp? If not, walk out. Don't order a hamburger, walk out. And we got these things in our pocket, hashtag them and destroy them. If they're saying they're Louisiana seafood, no, they're not. And I got some call out to some festivals. You know, we were wanting to do this 8 years ago. When I first came here, it was Jazz Fest that brought me here in the 90s. And the food at Jazz Fest was amazing. And there's still some amazing vendors out there. It's garbage out there now. And it's mostly imported seafood. There are some out there that are doing it right. Dana, who's around here, he does it at his stand. But the majority, you're eating imported stuff. So, we do have some solutions later today. Is there any other challenges any of you guys want to address?
Yeah, I'll take it. So one thing I think that I definitely need to mention is working waterfront security. You know, where Travis is at over in Cameron over there, I went over there for the graduation for the Louisiana Sea Grant program, and I was heartbroken when I saw the lack of working waterfront infrastructure that you guys have over there. And this is something that we need to remedy. Every storm that we have, those working waterfronts, just start to shrink and get less and less. But the storm isn't just coming from the water's edge with our infrastructure. It's coming from the land side too. And what I mean by that is there is a concerted effort going on through consolidation of land-based seafood infrastructure support, or seafood support infrastructure. And what I mean is, like, there's one company, Fortune International LLC, they have under that umbrella is Fortune Aquaculture, Fortune Imports, Fortune Seafood, and Fortune Seafood has acquired in the last 5 years the Houston Shrimp Plant, the Delcrum Shrimp Plant, Ballabatory Shrimp Jubilee, CCT Cold Storage, giving owners of product 30 days to vacate, and New Orleans Fish House. Right here in the city of New Orleans is one of the biggest distributors, if not the biggest distributor, of seafood to the white linen tablecloth restaurants and all restaurants and grocery stores. I sold to New Orleans Fish House, backed my truck up to their dock and my federal fish for about, I'd say probably a good 15 to 17 years. And once the acquisition came through, they stopped buying out of my truck. They stopped buying my federal catch. And when I went on their website and I looked at their shrimp link, I'm kind of analytical, so I dig into things a little bit too much sometimes, but all of their links of shrimp were sustainably grown in aquaculture practices from this country and that country, but the imagery, the marketing imagery was done real well. The verbiage was well done, all I's dotted, all T's crossed. And then the very last link on their website was wild-caught Gulf shrimp with some shrimp thrown on a plate, and literally maybe 2 sentences. So what we're seeing is we're seeing our everything from the processing facility all the way to the distributor that's being gobbled up and consolidated by the same members of the SATS group that's literally advocating for aquaculture and advocating, bankrolling Fortune International and Fortune Seafood on their website, talk about funding legislation to further regulate your food producers. So it's a big game and we've been gamed out of our own fishery, basically, in my opinion, and then the game continues. So looking forward, what are we trying to do to fix it, I think will be our next session. And I'll be excited to hear what others have to say and to be part of that. But there's some light at the end, potential light at the end of the tunnel. But the only way I see forward is if we collectively and effectively come together to make it happen. And I think that's the only way we're going to go forward. Thanks so much.
There's something I want to add that Kindra had mentioned, Fortune. So Delcum used to be the shrimp capital of Louisiana, and Fortune has the only shrimp processing facility in Delcum. And last year, they decided in October to stop selling ice to fishermen. So fishermen are kind of got left high and dry, nowhere to sell their shrimp, no one to buy ice from. So it created a major problem for the fishermen in Delcum. So it seems as there's a concerted effort to push the fishermen out so they can just push aquaculture. Another thing with the European Union, they test 50% of the products going into their country. And when a country gets tested positive 3 times, they get banned. So that's one of the other reasons why we have so much aquaculture making it into the United States. Everything is just being dumped here because, you know, they take it and they feed it to their people, and they don't care about the working waterfronts.
Just one comment I want to make. I don't care if it's Bidenomics, Reaganomics, Trumponomics. This country is run on goods and services. When you take me out, what I spend to make a living, that goods and service leaves. And you start taking us out, not just shrimpers, farmers, and everybody, where the money going to come from? How this country going to survive? So keep us here. Thank you.
I just want to make a last comment because I deal directly with so many families. And with the disruption and the non-income for the last 3 years, you know, we wait for May every year. It's expected, right? Mom, can I borrow $5,000 to pay my tax? This is April. Sure, here. Make sure you take care of me in May. This is anticipated. We wait for May every year. And at this point, we're moving towards let's consider COVID was 2 years destruction. Who anticipated the war to make diesel $5? At the same time, our shrimp price continues to subdue. I found in the past couple of years there hasn't been graduation parties, kids being prevented from entering first-year colleges. This is what's going on now along inside the family, as well as overdoses. Mental health is real for the first time in my commercial fisherman. That is not normal for me to see them red-eyed. They're always fun. They don't think about nothing but work and make money and raise their family. It is the main source of income for thousands of families along the coast. So can you imagine what is going on inside those families right now? This is our fisherman, the giddy, funny, flirty, you know, does not do anything but work hard, and quite frankly, if anyone of you are wise enough, like me, use and abuse it because they're more knowledgeable than anybody that I've known, any people that I've worked with when it comes to the land and the water. Here's another issue that is impacting the family is subsistence. We shrimp, but all the other fish, the squid, we bring home to eat. Not to mention, as lately, as this past decade, a lot of our Asians and a lot of our Americans are now growing. Guess what? We don't throw the fishes away anymore. We use them as fertilizer. So try a cucumber or a guava from Plaquemines or in the home area, and you're going to understand why we do what we do and why we need to continue to do what we need to do. And I don't think help is coming fast enough. Any laws coming down from the federal government might be too late for many families, but we need visibility and we need the support of the general American public. Thank you.
I just want to make y'all laugh a little bit before we close this out here. My wife's job went to Baton Rouge after Hurricane Katrina, so I actually live in Baton Rouge. I live in an area called Riverbend Subdivision, and it's right next to the campus, and there's hundreds of Asian professors. So all their wives buy seafood from me, okay? And most of them, English is real sparse. So I'm selling them shrimp. 2 years ago, the guy tested me again. I lost my big boat to fire. Okay, I just lost it completely. She calls me up, Mr. George, you get your boat back? Costco suck. I just started laughing, but it's true, you know? So you just can't eat garbage compared to what we can provide. Thank you all very much.
Closing comments, anybody? We good? All right, let's do what we do here. Let's have a festival.
All right.
Get out and eat some food. We got some shrimp here for sale. Get out and dance. We'll be back in here with solutions later this afternoon.